Hello everyone, and welcome to my tribute speech. For this tribute speech, I thought long and hard on who I wanted to do it over. I thought about my dad, I thought about my mom, I thought about my sister, but I decided to do it over my grandpa. My grandpa was a major part of my life. He was always with me, I grew up with him, he helped raise me. He was a huge part of my life. For starts, my grandpa taught me to always take care of your family. My grandpa would always be over at our house. He would always be helping around. He would always be willing to go the extra mile for your family. He was just down the road, but he would always make the trips over for dinner or whatever we needed or whatever he needed. We would always go over there to help him. My grandpa was a strong person. He was really strong-willed. He always looked at the brightest things in life. He was diagnosed with cancer a couple times, and while going through treatment, he never let it ruin his spirit. You could tell that he would be struggling, but he would always have a smile on his face. He would always be there for us, and he would always show that no matter what happens, that you can always find happiness and joy and make the most of what's happening. And I really appreciate that from him, because he could have just taken what was happening to him and been down in the dumps and looked at the worst parts of it, but he always pushed through for me and for our family. And another time, he had hip surgery a couple of years ago, and he didn't let that stop him. He always walked around his house. He would always do everything that he would normally do. He wouldn't let anyone hold him back from it. And he didn't let it stop him from just living his everyday life. And it showed me that a person can have incredible will and incredible strength if they just don't let the little things affect them. And I really appreciate that from him. And he also taught me that when growing up, going to church and everything like that, that faith was a huge part of my family growing up. And once I got to a certain age, they didn't really push it onto me as much anymore. But my grandpa would still always talk to me about it and would ask if I was still into my faith. And I would always tell him yes. And it's true, I am. And I should be more. But he would always tell me how growing up that no matter what's good or what's bad that's happening in your life is to keep your faith and maintain your faith. And that's because whenever you're in the tough spots, that's whenever most people want to look towards God and ask why and ask for help. And while that's okay to do, but you also have to look into God in the bright spots and say thank you and praise him and pray to him. And my grandpa would always sort of give me that mentality of don't just push away God whenever you're happy. Make sure that he's always still there with you. And I'm really grateful that growing up that I could always be with my grandpa and that he was so close. And I'm just blessed that he was such a huge part of my life and that I would never forget